Let me bring in our hypnotist, Marshall Silver.
It's Marshall Silver, ladies and gentlemen, the world's fastest hypnotist.
What? No intro? No. Isn't there an intro that says my name? Hey, it's Marshall Silver. We love you. That played? My goodness. Breakfast must be kicking in. Hey, welcome, everybody. Hopefully you're not as hypnotized as I am right now. Glad to see you. Good to invite you to the show. If you've never been to the show before, a couple things I want to point out. First and foremost, you see a stack of cash in front of me. I wish it was mine. It's not. It's yours. In fact, I've been giving away thousands of dollars on this show ever since its inception. At this point in my broadcasts, I've given away over $350,000 in cash to viewers just like you. So how do you get the cash? It's real simple. All you got to do is call 1-877-SILVER, S-Y-L-V-E-R, 1-877-SILVER-1. Get on the air, ask me a cool question, and I pay you $100 every time you call. I mean, it's that simple. Don't believe me? Well, gosh, yesterday we had some people call in, and they got cash too. So let me tell you who it was. Let's see. Brittany Purr got $100. Queenie Parvin, Nikki Hagan, and Sylvia Johnson, all $100 richer. Why? Because they watch this show. We're on Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. till about noon, or until it stops being interesting to me or you. So we're here every single day, Monday through Friday. Not only do you get $100 when you call in, and every single time you call in with a really cool question, every time your friends that you've referred to the show call in, they get $100 and you get 20. So how cool is that? Tell everybody every day, jump on the show. Not only will we enlighten you and give you gifts and ideas and strategies, tactics for living a better life, we'll also give you some cash when you call in. So it doesn't get any better than that. In the news, lots going on. You know, we chatted a few days ago, obviously on Monday. Big news was Maduro had been captured. And I said it on Monday's show. I said that he wasn't captured. I said no president of any country gets captured and gets captured in the way that he was. They just don't. They don't surrender like that unless they pre-negotiated a deal. So I promise you there's been a deal negotiated. And I believe that Maduro, above most, is a cornerstone, a key to all of the nonsense we've been dealing with in a lot of different ways. First and foremost, what most people don't realize, and let me go on record, and I know you don't need me to go on record because you know me, and you know what my stance is on most things. I'm extremely conservative. I'm a God-loving husband and father, and someone that just believes that America can get back to the values that we had that built this amazing country. And I am a champion for that, which is the reason I've gotten blocked so many times on so many platforms. It's the reason that Twitter, before Musk bought it, kicked me off. I had 155,000 followers, and overnight they just wiped out my entire account. Why? Because I said I love Donald Trump, and I was promoting all the great stuff Trump was doing. They just cleaned me out. And no explanation. So I'm a conservative. I am. And if you're a conservative, you'll like me. If you're not a conservative, I still want to talk to you. In fact, probably be a really heated conversation. And I like those kinds of conversations. I'm cool with it. But here's the thing. Lots of stuff going on. Maduro being locked up doesn't just mean that we've locked up a narco drug trafficker, which we have. But the thing that you need to keep in mind is Venezuela, and Maduro specifically, is the center of a whole lot of other things as well. First and foremost, yes, the drug trade. That's obvious. But the drug trade doesn't continue happening on the scale that it's been happening without massive corruption, which means not only our government, it also means obviously their government too. So their government's corrupt. But what Maduro is about to release, and what I've seen inklings of, is that Maduro, the dictator, past president of Venezuela, has a list of U.S. lawmakers, congressmen, senators, politicians that have been getting kickbacks for years to look the other way, to work in the favor of Venezuela. Maduro specifically stated that he was going to release from prison and send to America all of his criminal elements. Now, it makes sense that he would do that. Makes complete and total sense that he would do that. Why would he do that? Well, he would do that because he doesn't have to house his criminals anymore. He doesn't have to pay for his criminals anymore. Send them to the United States. It weakens the United States and puts them in a better position. So I get his strategy. And then the final thing about Maduro that you should keep in mind, why this is such a great thing for not just our country, for the entire world, is I want to remind you that Smartmatic and Dominion, both the software and the hardware of the election counting company called Dominion Software and Smartmatic Machines, they both originated in Venezuela. Hugo Chavez went to the leaders in his cabinets and said, create for me tabulation devices, vote counting machines that will guarantee I never lose another election again. Now, Maduro was Chavez's protege, so not a surprise that it's continuing on. But when they realized that they could control every single election and make it appear like they weren't, they realized that was the value. That was the profitability in the company. And so they started selling software to other countries. The United States, Democrats specifically, heavily embraced Smartmatic and Dominion Software, the machines, because they're hackable. They're hackable in person. They're hackable online. So my belief is what's happening. Maduro surrendered. If you watch the video clip I played on Monday, he greets the FBI. He greets the jailers while he's doing his perp walk. He says, good evening, a happy new year even. I don't know about you, but when you get arrested and you know that your neck might be in a noose, you're probably not going to be that jovial. You're not going to be that cheerful with your captors. You're probably going to be pissed off. And so the fact that he wasn't angry says a whole lot. The fact that he was actually happy, joyful, says a lot. Now, I also believe that he doesn't have any idea, no concept of what's in store for him, that he's going to be in jail, which he is right now. He's going to be in a place that's not nearly as nice as the palace in Venezuela was. So he's got to deal with that. But more than that, even though he's probably going to be favored and experience a reduced sentence, the bottom line is he's going to have to turn in other people. Right now, we're seeing so much happening in the world that on the surface might seem chaotic, yet I promise you long-term, we're getting set up for the best year we've ever had. 2026 already. If you look at any of the economic indicators, I was just looking at a couple of the economic indicators, and if you look at the economic indicators, everything is trending in the right direction. Gross national product, unemployment getting reduced, tariffs being generated, $600 billion being generated in tariffs, and so much more. I mean, we're in a magical period of time. On top of that, Trump chatting about eliminating the IRS, eliminating the Federal Reserve, reclaiming control of our own currency. It wouldn't be any better for anybody anywhere than what Trump is focusing on making it. So yes, I'm a fan of our current president. I absolutely am. The other thing that I'm noticing, and I bet you're watching it too, is media, both regular media, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, all of them, and certainly tech platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Google, all of them, they've softened their position, partly because of antitrust laws, partly because they're legally required to do so, but partly because you got to keep in mind, at the end of the day, Google, Facebook, my show, we're all about the money. I mean, we're all about customers. Yeah, I want to tell you the truth. My prayer is there's enough people that are in alignment with what I see as truth that they would want to come spend time with me. But I also know it doesn't matter. There's even people that don't agree with me. At least I want to open up the conversation. We're about the money. If I keep doing something that drives viewers away, I'm going to stop. I'm going to start doing the things that actually cause people to hang out with me and watch the show. So that's the first thing. The second thing you need to keep in mind is that while the economy starts getting better, all these people that hate Trump, all these people that talk about, how bad he is, all these people suffering TDS, they're not going to suffer anymore. And I'll tell you why. because their pocket's going to be full. Their belly's going to be full. They're going to be able to buy a house again. I don't know if you saw what happened yesterday. Trump is pushing regulations to stop the BlackRocks and the State Streets from buying single-family homes en masse. Because what they're doing is they're going to buy those single-family homes en masse. They're going to make home ownership unreachable, unaffordable to everybody. And then what are they going to do? They're going to start renting those homes back to consumers, because that's where we are right now. COVID shut everything down. The economy took a dump. Couldn't be any worse. Yet what happened was COVID also alerted us to what was going on in the world. Are we streaming also on my personal Facebook? So both my business account and my personal? Awesome. So at any rate, that's in the news. Good news happening right now. Good stuff happening in the country. Obviously, over the last day, the big news, the shooting in Minnesota. A woman, her name is Renee Nicole Good, mother of 3. Supposedly, this kind soul that's never done anything wrong got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the ICE agents attacked her and shot her and killed her for no reason whatsoever. I realize that I myself, for a while, would see stuff on social media platforms and just get furious, just get angry, because it's insane. It's so stupid. Now you got people breaking down the video of the occurrence from all these different point of views, and some people going, oh my God, unprovoked. They just murdered that woman. She was a good woman. She was just trying to drive away. That's not what the video shows. And anybody that sees anything else in the video, an actual clear video of the occurrence, they're wanting to see something else. So here's what I'll tell you. First and foremost, if you watch the video clearly, a couple things happen. Number one, you should know before you even watch the video that this woman was not some random person in Minneapolis there to protect her neighborhood. No, she wasn't even from Minnesota. She drove to Minneapolis. Why? She's a paid protester. First and foremost, you need to understand she's a paid agitator. That's why she was there. She was there to agitate. The greater she agitates, the better she's doing her job. And many of these paid protesters, I don't know if you realize this, they get paid in tiers. If I go to the protest, I get paid X. If I hold up a particular sign, I get paid X plus. If I hold up an even more volatile sign, I get paid even more. If I do things like jump into the police line, I get a bonus. I'm guessing if you ram an ICE officer or a law enforcement officer with your car, man, that must be the biggest bonus, because that's clearly what this woman was going for. She was directed twice to step out of her vehicle in a volatile situation. Now, I don't know about you. When guys with guns, even ones I don't agree with, tell me to do something and I don't have a gun, guess what? I just do it. You know why? Because I don't want to get shot. A motor vehicle, I was explaining this to my son. He's 14. I'm teaching him how to drive. In the words of Steven Tyler, lead vocalist for Aerosmith, when he was coming through his recovery, one of the comments he made is, your motor vehicle is 2 tons of bomb flying through the air at 80 miles an hour. Thank you, Steven. You drive fast. His point was, a vehicle is a weapon, and you must treat it with respect, like you would treat a loaded handgun. Using it properly, it's very useful. Using it wrongfully, people get hurt. The ICE officer was in front of her vehicle when she decided that she would back up and try to speed forward. Do I think she lost her mind momentarily? Absolutely. Do I think that she would have run over that officer? She hit him. She hit 2 of them. She ran over one guy's foot, clearly on the video, and it looks like she hit the thigh or the knee or the leg or the body of the one that pulled the trigger. The gunshot came from the front. It went through the front window. Yes, there's multiple gunshots. The first shot went through the window in the front. That means the bullet came from the front. Didn't come from the side, didn't come from the officer who'd already directed her twice to get out of the vehicle, came from the guy she was running over. Here's my tip of the day. You don't want to get shot and killed by law enforcement, even when you don't agree with them? Abide. How do I know this? I know this firsthand. I got into an argument years and years and years ago with a girlfriend. And the girlfriend, in her anger, this is a long, long time ago, picks up the phone, calls 911. I said, what did you just do? She said, I just called 911 like it was a slap in my face, like she was just being smart, like there was no consequence. Sure enough, there's a knock on my door. It's a cop. He says, everything okay here? I said, everything's okay. I turned to my girlfriend. I said, is everything okay? Do you need to go talk to him privately so you can tell him the truth about what's going on? No, everything's fine. I went to shut the door. He forced the door in, forced his way into my home. Number one, that's illegal. He claimed he had probable cause. That's nothing. That whole matter went away. Stupid. But what didn't go away is he sued me for emotional duress, that my shutting the door before he could step in somehow emotionally distressed him. Well, that's not what emotionally distressed him. What emotionally distressed him is my house was really nice. My Mercedes was parked in the driveway. He saw a guy with money and decided to exploit it. He didn't get any money, but he sued me. So here's my point in all this. Life's not fair. Don't expect it to be fair. It's never going to be fair. And because it's not fair, you got to deal with the game as the game is played out. It's not fair. If someone has a gun, you comply until you can escape. You don't run them over, because if you run them over, they're going to shoot you. You're going to die. I feel for this woman. I do. I feel for this woman and her kids. But, it's been noted, why was she a paid protester in another state with 3 kids at home? Her mother said, oh, she was such a good girl. She was such a good girl. But just like the Venezuelan drug boats that Trump is blowing up to send a message to narco drug traffickers, don't get on a boat loaded with drugs that's headed toward the United States. If you do, there's a consequence. I think the same thing has to happen with these protesters. Nothing that's going on with these protests has been organic. Nothing is growing from just people not agreeing or being unhappy. They're networks paid by Soros, paid by deep state funding. Used to be USAID, which meant that you used to pay for these protests. But none of this is organic. If you take a look, when Maduro was captured, all these protests broke out across the country. But interestingly, these organic protests, supposedly, that just got stirred up by people in these different areas, Detroit and Denver and Portland and Dallas, supposedly this just all happened naturally. But what's weird? They all had the same printed signs. Like someone had printed the signs and overnighted them to each of the chapter of protesters that are organized to go against anything Trump does. Maduro had a bounty on his head of $25 million placed by Biden. Trump bumped it to $50 million. But again, it was put on by Biden. Massive people. Obama, Biden, pretty much everybody on the Democratic side of the aisle criticized the fact that Trump wasn't in his first term going after Maduro. Now that he's gone after Maduro, oh, guys, guess what? Because it suits our narrative, maybe we'll just be pissed off about that. At any rate, I digress, but I just want to tell you, sometimes when it seems like things aren't going well, they're going well. And I want you to know right now, my prayer for you, if you're watching my show right now, you're probably a conservative like me. My prayer for you, if you're watching this show right now, is that you get wise. Number one, that you're going to win cash. I'm going to start giving cash away in the second hour. That's what we always do here at Marshall Silver Live. And I got boatloads. I got unlimited cash. One of my marketing buddies, when I told him what I was going to do at this show, he said, yeah, how much cash do you have to give away? I said, unlimited. I said, not only will I pay $100 to everybody that calls in and asks me a question, I'll pay $20 to everybody that they refer to call in to ask me a question, plus I'll pay their friend $100. But check this out. We just started. We're not even open yet. The show hasn't launched. We are in pre-launch, and the reason we're in pre-launch is to work out the bugs, add some production elements, make sure everything's working properly, make sure affiliates are properly tracked so they can be properly paid. Once the show takes off, we're going to just keep bumping it. The more viewers I have simultaneously, the more people you refer to the show that actually get on and check me out, the more I'll multiply the cash reward for calling into the show and the cash reward for referring people. So eventually it'll get up to $200 for everybody that you refer to the show, and $40 for everybody you refer to the show, $200 every time somebody calls in. Eventually, it'll get to $1,000 for every time somebody calls in, and $200 every time you refer somebody. We're talking big bucks. We're getting there. We'll get there with you. We're doing this together. This is not about making a profit for me. It's about the money that I would have spent on advertising going to you instead of Mark Zuckerberg. That's what I want. So that's the top of the show where we talk about current happenings, what's going on in the world as far as news is concerned. Now let's talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I want to talk about hypnosis, that everything is hypnosis, and ultimately hypnosis is a brand. I came across an article the other day, and I loved it. It was an article about the founding of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Now, I don't know about anybody else watching the show right now. I love ice cream. Absolutely love ice cream. I quit drinking alcohol over 900 days ago, so about 2.5 years ago. And when I never was a dessert person prior. Now that I don't drink alcohol, I think it's just replacing the sugar. I do like my desserts, and ice cream's one of my favorites. Now, all ice cream is not created equally. If you go to the drugstore and you go over to the counter and you get your 2 scoops for, used to be 25 cents. I think now it's probably a couple of bucks. But when you go get your ice cream from there, guarantee you the ice cream isn't very good. It's just okay, but it's drugstore ice cream. It's not supposed to be good. It's not what they're known for. That's not the purpose of their business. It's an add-on point of purchase thing that when you bring your kids, it keeps the kids quiet while you go around the store and buy more than you were supposed to buy. So all ice cream is not created equally. Back in the 1960s, a Polish immigrant immigrated from Poland. And when he immigrated from Poland, he went into the ice cream business. While in the ice cream business, he realized that he wasn't making any progress. And the challenge was that he couldn't. There was too many people competing. The challenge with competition in the marketplace is that you cannot, and I want you to take a note. If you're taking notes on my topic today, and you should take notes every time you get on the show, never compete on price. Now, I used to say, unless you're Walmart, never compete on price. Now I simply say, don't compete on price ever. Always compete on value. So if you are in a market that has a lot of competition, you got a lot of other people attempting to sell something similar or even identical to what you sell, never compete on price. I had a inner circle member, one of my students, come to me, and my inner circle is my highest end program. These days, the retail is $80,000 to become a part of my inner circle. Back in his day, it was $50,000. He paid $50,000 to come be mentored personally by me and to hire me to be his lifetime mentor. And he comes to a 3-day session that I was teaching at my palace in Las Vegas. And in his focus session, when I was focused on him, he told me, he said, you know what, I paid you $50,000 to be mentored by you, but the truth is I'm about to go bankrupt. I'm about to bankrupt my water purification company. And I said, why would you do that? And he said, I can't compete anymore. He said, there's no money in it. And I said, explain your business to me. He said, we sell a water purification system. It attaches to your water system, it purifies your water, and we sell it for $499. And the reason we sell it for $499 is everybody that sells these water purification systems, they're basically white labeled. It's the same system. So everybody's selling the same product. So we've got to diminish our margins as far as we can so that we can stay in business. I said, okay, what's the hard cost on that unit that you're selling? He said, it's Keystone. For those of you unfamiliar with the term, Keystone in retail means you bought it at X, you sold it for 2X. That's Keystone. Double the wholesale price is what you retail it for. He said, it's Keystone. I said, what are your expenses? He said, well, between commission and admin and everything else that we do, I've got about another $200 worth of expenses. I said, so you're in for $450 on a unit that you sell for $500. That means you got $50 profit, but then you still have to compete against everybody else that's selling the product. So now you're not only diminished in how much money you make, you're also diminished in your market share. I said, before you bankrupt your company, since you're going to bankrupt it anyway, you might as well take some risks. You might as well throw some noodles against the wall. So here's the risk that I want you to take. I want you to go back home, and instead of selling that unit for $499, $500, I want you to sell it for $1,500. He said, there's no way I can sell it for $1,500. I said, stay with me. I said, to get into my house, you walked past my Rolls-Royce Phantom. That Rolls-Royce Phantom at the time when he went through the program was about $450,000. Now it's about $650. But at the time, $450,000. I said, you walked past my $450,000 car to get into my house to be mentored by me. I said, I will tell you up front, nobody needs a $450,000 car to get from point A to point B. Well, that is until you're riding one. Then you got to have it. But there's no justification. There's no financial justification in paying $450,000 for something that I could have paid $40,000 or even less to get me from point A to point B. So there's something else that's motivating me to spend that $450,000. That's what we're talking about. He said, but we're not selling a Hyundai versus a Rolls-Royce. We're selling the Hyundai. I said, I understand, but there's a distinction there too. If you knew that you could buy a Hyundai and that for the rest of your life, and as often as you wanted to, anytime that Hyundai broke down, I wouldn't come out and repair it. I would come out and replace it. Door handle breaks, I replace it. Tires go flat, I replace the whole car. Transmission, air conditioning goes out, I replace it. I just replace it. I said, that would put you in a different frame. I said, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I use the metaphor a lot, that life is kind of like an escape room. For those of you that don't do escape rooms, you get locked in a room. It's not really locked. You can just open the door and walk out, so you're not confined for those of you that are claustrophobic. You go into a room, they shut the door, and your job is to solve puzzles inside the escape room that lead to a solution that usually leads to a combination of the lock that's on the door. But you got to solve a bunch of other puzzles in the meantime to get to that place to solve that particular puzzle that opens the door that lets you out of the escape room. When you do something, the phrase that should come to mind when things aren't working out is what you want is in a place that you haven't looked. Seems smart enough, right? That the solution I'm seeking is a solution I haven't done or even probably considered. Anything you're dealing with right now, what you've got to ask yourself is, even if it's counterintuitive, what might be the solution? Even if it's the exact opposite of what I think the solution is, what might be the solution? We were doing an escape room with my kids, all three of my kids, Sterling, Maximus, and Prosperity, 14, 12, and 10. They're excellent at escape rooms. Their brains are just wired to figure things out. Early on, when we were doing escape rooms, Sterling was 6 years old. We were doing an escape room, and you can get hints. There's a voice, usually in a speaker, that'll give you hints. And I went to do something, and Sterling suggested something, and I said, no, it couldn't be that, son. And then he suggested it again, and I said, no, son, I'm the adult. I understand what you're saying. That's not the solution. The voice came over the PA that said, listen to the child. Listen to the child, which actually is pretty good advice for most of us most of the time. So at any rate, Jerry Arola, my client that had come to my home that was going to shut down his water purification company, I told him, go back and I want you to sell your water purification systems, not for $500. I want you to sell them for $1,500. I want you to sell them, though, with a lifetime replacement guarantee. He said, oh, my God, I can't do that. I said, why is that? He said, the units are $250. So if I have to replace that, 3 or 4 times, I may not make any money. I said, stop. You're doing bad math. I said, first and foremost, let's say somebody buys it for $1,500. You are now $1,050 profitable, which means they have to replace that unit 4 times before you're even back to where you started, but you're still profitable. Do you remember Radio Shack? Do you? And by the way, you can talk to me in the chat. I look at the chat. So if I'm doing the show and you're talking to me in the chat, I'll see you in the chat and I may comment on your conversation. Radio Shack is no longer in business, but the most profitable thing at Radio Shack, most people never guess. Sometimes people say batteries or cassette tapes or some commodity like that. That's not what the most profitable thing sold at Radio Shack was. It wasn't even their business model. Their business model was when you took that toaster or that cassette player, or I guess back in the day, that 8-track player, to the counter and you put it on the counter, when they rung it up, they would say, would you like, the manufacturer has a 6-month parts and labor warranty on this. Would you like to buy the extended 2-year warranty? It'll just be an additional $15, $20, $30. And if you bought it, guess what? First and foremost, you probably forgot that you had a warranty. So you probably never used it. So that would have been pure profit. If you buy a warranty and you never use it, that's pure profit. That's found money. There's no cost right in their pocket. I also know, though, that because when I would buy an extended warranty, because I would always forget, I would take the warranty and I would tape it to the back of the unit that I had bought the warranty for so that I would remember I have a warranty on this thing. I remember my refrigerator went out and I wanted to get a new refrigerator. And so I went out and I found the cool one with the glass door so you could see what was inside, and it has the computer screen over here so I can put the things that we need to shop for when they run out over there. Cool. High-end refrigerator. Fell in love with it when I saw it. Bought it on the spot. They deliver the refrigerator. They go to put it in, take the old one out. When they pull the old one out, I noticed that I have a warranty on the back of that refrigerator to get a brand new refrigerator. I already bought the one that I want. So I didn't keep the refrigerator. I did trade it in for a brand new one and sell it, but I also kept the new refrigerator. So when I told my water purification guy, I want you to sell that $1,500 unit, and I want you to tell them you'll never have to think about it again. First and foremost, half the people will forget they have a warranty. The water purification system will go its time. It'll burn out, and they'll forget they have a warranty. They'll just buy a new one, maybe even from you. Even the ones that remember they have a warranty will probably replace it once, twice, maybe 3 times. But even if they replace it 3 times, you're 600% more profitable, even if they replaced it 3 times, which they probably won't get to. Because the water purification unit is replaced about every 3, 4, maybe 5 years. The average length of time the average homeowner owns a home is 10 years. So at most, you're probably exposed for 2 replacements, $500, which still means you're $550 profitable. He leaves. He uses my strategy. Guess what? Sells his company in 1 year for $9 million, cash out the door. The company he was going to bankrupt, he sold for $9 million. And as they say, the rest is history. Used that $9 million, launched another company that I advised him on, and took that company to $100 million within 1 year. Good stuff. So my point in all this is if you have a business dilemma, if you have a challenge that you're working on, then what you need to do sometimes is step back, become your customer, and ask, what does your customer truly want? So back in 1960, Reuben Mattus probably, Polish immigrant, comes to the United States and starts selling ice cream. And he's selling run-of-the-mill ice cream, just regular ice cream. And his friend is taking his ice cream into his drugstore, selling his ice cream there in the drugstore. But the friend tells him, he says, your ice cream really isn't that good. And he becomes obsessed with making a really good ice cream. There's a difference. There's a difference in creaminess. There's a difference in level of sugar inside it. Got to be at the right level, not too much, not too little. Everything, the variety of flavors, everything matters. So he goes into his basement and he starts playing with formulas to create a better ice cream. But the challenge is, even if he creates an ice cream that's 10 times better than his competitors, they don't know it. They'll never understand it. So they probably won't sample it. And even if they do sample it, there's no hypnosis there to pre-frame them to appreciate it on the level he needs them to appreciate it on. So he, in addition to working on his formula, he says, gosh, I need to come up with a name that will set us apart. I need to come up with a name that will make people sample us one time kind of as a treat. I may eat hamburger every single day at home, but when I go out to treat myself, I'm going to get a prime rib steak. So it's got to be something that, even if it's a treat, makes people know that it's high end. It's a Rolls Royce in a world of Kias. So he starts playing around with made up phrases, made up names, made up words. He wants it to sound European, maybe German, maybe Swiss, chocolate or high-end dairy products. And so he comes up with the name Haagen-Dazs. Completely fabricated name. Doesn't mean anything. Haagen-Dazs. Slaps the label on his ice cream. Says it's a premium ice cream, which it is. But now he's got a new, unique-sounding European name. We like things that are unique and foreign. And he starts to market his ice cream. He also realizes, and I want you to write this down if you're taking notes, and if you're not taking notes, you should be. I want you to write this down. Play every ace. What does that mean? Change everything you can catch. We're testing right now, and there's lots of stuff going on. I've got an LED wall behind me, and my desire is that this would look like a news show. So no matter where you find me, whether you find me on a social media platform or you've registered for your account at marshallsilverlive.com, doesn't matter. Wherever you find me, what I want to look like a news show, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. I want to look like that quality and level of broadcast because terrestrial media, legacy media, mainstream media as we know it, is dead. It's not coming back. This is the future. We're going to get all of our content, all of our information, all of our news, all of our inspiration digitally from now on. The attention span of the average human being on the planet right now that's anywhere near a digital device is the same attention span of a pissant. Very short, non-existent actually. And so we are going to start consuming all of our content this way. You got to start. You got to be willing to put out crap and then rehearse, review, revise. Put out crap 2.0. So play every ace. So the second thing that Ruben did is he said, not only will my ice cream be named Haagen-Dazs, but I need to make it stand out on the shelf. You know, when you start to ponder your company, one of the most powerful things that you can do is be empathetic. See the world through your customer's eyes. So if I'm a consumer and I'm looking at the freezer section in my grocery store and I see all these ice creams, nothing is going to particularly stand out to me. And sure, a cool name like Haagen-Dazs might catch my attention, but then again, I might not even see it. I might not even notice it because it just blends in with all the other ice creams. So what did he do? Not only did he charge more for his product. Now, mind you, you got to keep in mind all of the eyes upon you. So if you're selling direct to consumer, but you're selling through a retailer, you also have to consider what's the retailer's point of view. So in a retailer's point of view, they want to make more money. So if you have a product that has more margins, you can give more of your profit to your retailer. So they're going to want to sell your product when they can. But the double-edged sword, the devil's advocate, is that if your product doesn't sell, real estate is more important than anything. If it's not selling, they got to get it off the shelves and put something on there that sells. So he took it one step further. If you remember, I remember this as a kid. If you remember as a kid, we got ice cream in a carton. Jeremy, do you remember that? Ice cream in a carton, right? And you would cut the edge of the carton, you'd open up the flap, open it up, and you'd scoop it in, and that was your ice cream. It was square. It was a block. And the reason ice cream was packaged that way is it would maximize shelf space. The shelf space in a store is valuable. The shelf space in a store, in a freezer, even more valuable. So it maximized shelf space. It took care of the retailer so that they didn't have to have a bigger refrigerator to sell their goods. But here's the thing. If you're taking care of your middleman more than you're taking care of your end user, the person that's actually plunking down the cash to buy your product, eventually you're going to lose. So what he did was he took the Haagen-Dazs square boxes they were originally packaged in, and he made them round. The exact opposite of everything else. He made them round and put them on the shelf. Well, now I'm standing in front of the freezer. I'm scanning all the ice cream choices. All of them kind of melt together, excuse the pun, except for that one, because that one's round. That's weird. Why is that round? Why? Who does that? Sometimes it's packaging. Sometimes it's just changing the package on the outside of the product that makes people take an initial look at it, and then the rest of the hooks can start setting in themselves. So he changes the product packaging, and as they say, the rest is history. Multi-billion-dollar brand, all because he put a better name on it. My initial seminar, my preview, the thing that I teach people to let them know what I do, is called Take Action Now. Why? That's the whole point of that whole lesson. It's to teach people that no risk means no goodies. And unless you start taking new actions in your life, nothing's going to change. But there's another reason. So not only do I need to name it what it is, there's another reason. When I teach you, in fact, if you want to watch the lecture so you understand what I'm talking about, you can go to MP2M, the letter M, the letter P, the numeral 2, the letter M, mp2m.com/webinar. Sterling will put it up on the screen in a moment. When you go there to that website, one of the lessons is I'm going to say take a clean sheet of paper and in big, bold block letters on that clean sheet of paper that you're taking notes on, write these words: take action now. Why now? Because tomorrow never comes. But there's a bigger reason I want you to do that. For the next 60 to 90 minutes, however long I'm lecturing and teaching you, I want you staring at a piece of paper that says take action now on the top of it. I want that to be right in front of you so that when I direct you to buy my product, that's what you've been staring at, thinking about, echoing in the chamber that is your mind for 60 or 90 minutes. That's why it's named that. So names are absolutely important. If my name was Richard, I wouldn't go by Dick. I would go by Rich. Given the choice, you're better off to be rich than to be a dick. So you got to figure out what is the name of your brand. And then secondly, you got to stop and ponder what might be the pattern interrupt. What might be the thing that makes me stand out from all the other people screaming about their product that might be similar to mine. Everybody has a show right now. Anybody and their brother can do what we did here, right here at Studio Money and Sterling Worldwide Studio. They can set up a camera in the corner of their closet. They can grab a couple key lights, put the key lights up. They can get a StreamYard account, which, by the way, Nikki, if you're watching right now, don't put your StreamYard account promos in my feed. That's just bad form. But anybody can do that. Anybody can get a StreamYard account. Anybody can do the broadcast. You got to write this down, your UMP. Unique marketing proposition. What sets you aside? My friend Ty Lopez, I like Ty a lot. He's a good guy. Does random broadcasts, and every once in a while he gives away prizes and sometimes a little bit of cash. That's not what we're doing here. Every single day, today included, in the second part of the show, I'm going to open up the phone lines. I'm going to give away cash, and every single person that calls in is going to get free cash, $100 every single time you call in. If you refer people, and I heartily recommend that you do, if you signed up for your account at marshallsilverlive.com, you also got an email. In that email was not only a link to the broadcast, which you're watching right now, there was a link to your back office. Go to your back office, set the password, get into your dashboard, and you'll see assets that you can share, links that you can share on your social media that not only include the name of my show, but also have your private identifier at the end of it so that when somebody clicks on that private identifier, guess what? They'll be registered permanently to you. Now, if you're an Inner Circle member, and I know many of my Inner Circle members watch this show, if you're an Inner Circle member watching this show and you refer people every day, which you absolutely should, some of those people are going to end up at Turning Point. Some of those people that end up at Turning Point are going to buy my Inner Circle program. Some of those people that buy my Inner Circle program are also coded to you, so that means you get a 25% commission. They buy my $80,000 program. You just made $20,000. For what? For referring people to my broadcast? If you're not a part of my Inner Circle program, here's my recommendation. Call in while I'm testing because I'm being extremely generous. Call in right now when we open the phone lines up, which we're about to do shortly, 877-SILVER1. When we open up the phone lines, call in. Get on the air, because today when you get on the air, I'm not only going to give you $100, I'm also going to give you 2 tickets to Turning Point. You're going to come to Turning Point. You're going to love what you see. You're going to want to learn more from me. You're going to start referring people to the show because your Inner Circle, you're going to make big bucks. You could literally earn a strong 6-figure living simply by referring people to the show. I digress a bit. I'm just excited about giving the stacks of cash away. But here's some more notes. I love this. There was a study. And like I said, we're working on everything, and as we get through the technical stuff, we'll add more and more. One of the first people I'll hire for this show is a research person that can do research, gather up assets. I was about to get on the air, and I was pondering how, Haagen-Dazs changes the name of the ice cream, becomes a multi-billion-dollar brand, all because of framing, all because of hypnosis. And I said, what other examples, what other changes of frame have worked? And I was reminded of a shoe company, Payless. Now, if you've ever bought shoes from Payless, you know they're cheap. They're like Skechers. They're good shoes, don't get me wrong. I own multiple pairs of Payless shoes myself, but they're cheap. They're known for value. They're not known for being expensive. So if my kids need shoes, I'm not going to Nike Town, not initially at least. I'm going to go to Payless. Why? Because it's in their name. I can pay less. But they decided to test something. And they opened up a pop-up store in a major mall, and they did signs and they did elegant displays. And they named the store a French name, Pélassé. And they opened the store, sold the exact same shoes for 10 times the amount they were selling them right up the mall at their Payless location. Pélassé. And it just goes to prove a point. My wife is not a gold digger in any way. My wife, Erica, is the best decision I ever made in my entire life. Definitely not a gold digger. Doesn't care about brands. Yves Saint Laurent, Louis Vuitton, they don't matter to her. She's a mom. She's a great wife. She's an excellent mother. She likes value. But I'm telling you, you slap an Yves Saint Laurent or a Louis Vuitton label on a piece of leather, that instantly increases the value of that piece of leather. Shape it into a handbag, into a wallet, it instantly increases the value simply by having that brand on the item. So that's what you want to start thinking about, especially in this day and age. Because what's happened in digital marketing is we now have so many more choices than we've ever had. You've got to be a differentiator. You've got to figure out what makes me unique. Yeah, I'm going to be giving away cash every single day. And like I said, we're testing. This is, what is today, Thursday? This is our 5th day of testing. We're going to test again tomorrow. Next week, I've got seminars all week, so I won't be broadcasting next week. The following week, we'll be back on. And we're likely to fully launch, once I've worked through the bugs, likely in the middle of February. With that launch will come some other cool things, some other cool surprises. One of the things is, I was just chatting this morning with the team, we're going to have a monthly number one call. We're going to have somebody that's voted as the number one call of the month. And I think we're going to tie it into the number of times a clip is shared, and we're going to let AI track all of that. And the winner of the most popular clip or call of the month will receive a 10-ounce bar of Marshall Silver. Now, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but last I looked, spot price on silver was about $110. So multiplied by 10 ounces, that's $1,100. And we'll do that every single month. And then I was also thinking, we here at Studio Money have a Mercedes-Benz SUV parked in the theater to be given away. And I'm just looking for the right opportunity to give away. So we're going to figure out a way to give away the Mercedes-Benz SUV right here on the Marshall Silver Live Show, so stay tuned. One more, before we take our break at the top of the hour, one more example of a shift of focus or a shift of brand that made all the difference in the world. When Amazon launched originally, they didn't sell everything. When Amazon launched, Jeff Bezos sold books. And the reason he sold books is because he said, nobody's selling books online. I should become the largest online bookseller in the world. I'm going to launch this thing called Amazon. In the first few years of the launch of Amazon, as you know, they lost billions. That's with a B, billions of dollars. And it wasn't until Bezos, in an exasperated state, ready to give up, said, we're not going to sell books anymore. We're not going to sell just books. We don't have a book company. We have a distribution company. And because he realized he had a distribution company, he started selling everything. Now, on the face of it, hindsight's always 20/20. On the face of it, pretty obvious, not everybody reads books. So not everybody would have a reason to go to a book-selling website. Yet, just about everybody buys stuff, some stuff. What can you buy on Amazon now? Everything. Can you buy books? Of course you can buy books. Can you buy computer items? Of course you can buy computer items. My first Rolls Royce I bought online. So you can buy anything online. So if you're in the business of selling something, and everybody is, if you are in business for yourself and you're not getting the result that you want to get, there's only a few reasons. First and foremost, you might not be in what we call a TRE. Write it down. TRE, target-rich environment. What is a target-rich environment? A target-rich environment is a would and a could. You are in a place, in a market, that people would want what you're selling. Doesn't do you any good to have a product that nobody wants to buy. But then you also have to consider you need to be in a place not only that people would want what you were selling, as importantly, could afford it. Doesn't do you any good to have everybody crying, oh my God, I want your product, but I can't afford it. That doesn't do you any good. So you've got to find that target-rich environment, that environment of people that want what you're selling and can afford it. That's first and foremost. Now, if I'm in the proper environment, and that's usually the challenge, usually it's that I'm not in front of qualified prospects, or I'm not in front of enough qualified prospects. So the second thing you want to think about if you're in a target-rich environment is, how do I expand the volume of prospects or opportunities in my target-rich environment? The next thing you want to do is start considering, can I form strategic alliances? What's a strategic alliance? It's somebody that sells to your avatar customer. Who's your avatar customer? Well, certainly your avatar customer is a would and a could. But then when you drill down on your avatar customer, you got to start asking yourself, where does my avatar customer play? This thing that I'm doing right now, giving away cash to every single person that calls 877-SILVER1 and gets on the air and asks me a question, this thing is not new. This is timeshare. I'm telling you, listen to my presentation for 2 hours. I'll reward you. Frankly, it's about as good, if not better, than timeshare, because you can come back again and again. Timeshare, you can only tour once. You can call me up as often as you get through with a good question and get $100 every single time. So it's timeshare. It's called, write this down, an ethical bribe. Everybody uses it. Timeshare uses it. Restaurants use it all the time. Come on in. We'll give you a free dessert with every entree you buy. So that ethical bribe is something very useful. Can you give away a report? Can you give away a sample of your goods? Debbie Fields, the person who founded Mrs. Fields Cookies, Debbie Fields. When Mrs. Fields came out, they came out with a brand new concept, just like Haagen-Dazs did. They came out with the idea of a superior cookie. And every single day, they'd make these brand new, fresh, baked cookies. They'd put them in the store counter and attempt to sell them. Well, for the first 3 months, they sold almost nothing. Why? Because that wasn't people's idea of cookies at the time. Their idea of cookies at the time were those rack cookies. You know what I'm talking about. Those cookies that are a sandwich with a little bit of cream in the middle that you could buy a whole rack for $3, $4, $5. That was how people knew cookies. Maybe Chips Ahoy in a bag, but they were always hard. They were never warm. And then here's this woman selling soft, hot cookies like your mother makes. The challenge was it was foreign. Nobody understood a cookie store. So she tells her husband, we're going to shut the cookie store down. But then decides, you know what, before we shut it down, we got 2 more weeks on the lease. We're already here. I've bought all the goods and ingredients to make the cookies. How about we just bake cookies every single day and just give them away? Worst case scenario, we're going to make some people happy. And so they did. They started standing on the street with quarter cookies, sample cookies, giving samples to everybody that walks by. Mrs. Fields cookie, crumble cookies these days, pure crack. Worse than crack cocaine because they're legal. And so when people started sampling the cookies and they realized how good they were, people started coming in. And then much like their morning coffee, people started coming in at a regular basis. The guy that wanted a coffee and a cookie, the person that wanted to pick me up in the afternoon, or the person that wanted to, have a little special treat before they got on with the rest of their day. So find the target-rich environment, find your strategic alliances, figure out what your unique marketing proposition is, and then ultimately you control the narrative, you control the story, you control the brand. So even if the brand is completely made up, a nonsensical word like Haagen-Dazs or Paylessi, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, are they buying your product or not? Because at the end of the day, the consumer, you, me, all of us, we vote with our wallet. So keeping in mind that somebody can tell you they love your product, you're so amazing, you're such a great coach, you're a totally remarkable speaker, but they didn't buy what you were selling, you're not. And while it might float your ego, might make you feel good in the moment, guess what? When you're hungry and homeless, you're not going to care how much they loved your lecture. All you're going to care about is, did they buy your offer? Doesn't matter how elegant your store looked, doesn't matter, how great your product is. You can have the best product in the world. But if it's not psychically positioned properly, hypnotically placed in such a way that the consumer says, I want this, you're going to go out of business. Today's show, we're going to start taking your calls, and I'm guessing we've got some calls in the queue. Is that right? Lovely. I'd love to hear your business questions today, because today's topic has been mostly about business. Love to hear your business question. I'd love to know what you're working on. Before I get into that, though, I will tell you, when I go in and I coach, and I've been coaching people for over 40 years, when I go in and I coach companies, generally speaking, write this down, money cures most things. In fact, when I tell you to write something down so that I know that you're writing it, if you could put it also in the chat, that would be great. That way it not only reinforces it for you, lets it be more programmed into your brain. Anybody skimming over, and going doom scrolling on social media will look at the chat, and if they see a few things in there that make sense. People vote with their wallets. You are a product of your communication. What you send out echoes back. So if I'm sending out things that people like, they'll echo back in kind with me. If I'm sending out things that they don't like, they'll echo back in kind by not being responsive or warm or purchasing what I'm selling. So we always get the feedback, especially from consumers. That feedback is honest. When I was a child, pet rocks were huge. For those of you that don't know what pet rocks were or are, they were rocks with eyeballs. Sometimes they had little ears on them, but they were rocks. They were packaged in a nice little box, and people bought them to the tune of $1 billion. Is that insane? Mood rings. Little ring that you could put on your finger, and the heat from your finger would cause the element inside the plastic and the ring to change colors. Sold those mood rings. Wall walkers. Those sticky things that you throw against the wall that, because they're sticky, roll down the wall and almost look like they're walking down the wall. All trends. How do we get your product to be a trend? How do we get everybody watching my show to get excited and say, oh my gosh, not only did I make $100 for calling in, but I went to my Zelle account and I hadn't looked at my Zelle account for 2 weeks, and 10 people, I guess, must have called in over the last 2 weeks because I got $200 in my Zelle account. It's that easy. It really is. But the bottom line for you is, if you are in business and you're not making money, you got to learn how to sell things. I was at my desk here at Studio Money yesterday. I was in the middle of a meeting. My office door was open. And I'm upstairs in my office. Generally speaking, the door downstairs is locked when we're not doing seminars. We don't really have any reason for drop-by visitors, so the door's locked. And I'm at my desk, I'm meeting with somebody at my desk, and a complete stranger walks into my office. Number one, it's my office. Number two, it's my building. And so somebody had walked into my building, walked up the stairs, walked into the executive office and said, hi, I'm so-and-so. I sell office furniture. Boldness is rewarded. I said, we don't need any office furniture, but tell me about you, because I'm impressed that you walked all the way up here and walked straight into my office. He said, I've been in the furniture selling business for 20 years. I'm 40 years old. I've been doing this since I was a kid. I opened up a store across the street. I'm looking for new customers. And that idea that the business owner would be out on the street, knocking on doors, cold calling clients, that's the power. That's why he's the owner. See, unless you're willing to start cold calling, unless you're willing to hit the street, start knocking on doors yourself, you can't train anybody else to do that. You've got to do it yourself. And when you do it yourself, guess what? Everything gets easier. Sales is the basis of your company. Money cures most things. You want your company to flourish? All you got to do is say, how do I sell more? Do I need to learn how to sell more? Do I need to hire people around me that can sell better than me? Do I need to change my marketing? Do I need to create that unique marketing proposition for my product? Do I need to completely reinvent what I do? Everything can be reinvented. I saw that Kim Kardashian has a new product line out. Obviously, she's made $1 billion with Spanx. Now, I don't know about anybody else. She calls them Spanx. My mother simply called it a girdle, that she wore a girdle. Kim Kardashian calls them Spanx because nobody wants to admit they wear a girdle, but most girls that wear girdles pray that they could get spanked. I said it out loud. But here's the thing that I also want you to keep in mind. Kim Kardashian and everybody else has had flops as well. She just came out with a product line, and I don't even want to tell you what the name is. I'll describe it best I can in mixed company. It's underwear. It's panties, but the panties have fur on them. They have fur on the outside. I shudder to think about it. But they're selling like crazy. Women that want to put vinyl down there to begin with somehow want to put Carpet on top of that. I don't get it. At any rate, reinvention. That's the word of the day. Hey, 877-SILVER1 is the number. Pick up the phone. Give me a call. When you call in, we're going to screen your call. So tip of the day, make your call interesting. That's the point. We can only put so many calls a day onto the show. Make your call interesting. And when you make your call interesting, guess what? Not only will we put you on the air and give you $100, today I'm going to give you 2 tickets to Turning Point as well, which are worth $3,000 a piece. You're going to come. You're going to be transformed. We're going to start a lifetime relationship. And together, we are going to change the economy one person, one business at a time. It is top of the hour. And like I said, top of the hour, second hour of the Marshall Silver Live Show. We go into the vault where we open up the phone lines. Today's no different. I'm going to tell you about the vault. I'm going to tell you about Turning Point and the tickets you're going to receive when you call me. I'm going to get your cash ready to get Zelled over to you right after this.
Turning Point. A total change in direction for the better.
Who here is ready for a turning point? You absolutely have to have one. Put them high.
The 2-day Turning Point seminar is different than any other program in that it does more than just teach you the skills for your relationships, wealth, and power. It also programs you on a subconscious level to put those skills into immediate use.
This weekend is about empowerment. This weekend is about you understanding how to take charge of your own life.
You will learn total control of your thoughts and emotions. How to use PND, or psychoneural duplication, to take on the thoughts and actions of others to produce similar results. Whether it's losing weight, changing habits, being a millionaire.
When you think what a millionaire thinks and you do what a millionaire does, you'll produce similar results.
You will learn to program these powerful tools at a subconscious level for immediate and lasting results.
Your conscious mind is what's called your critical factor. It's the mind you're using right now to determine whether the information I'm giving to you will work for you or not. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is merely a computer. It's non-critical. It doesn't even have the ability to make judgment. So all trance, hypnosis, reprogramming is setting aside the critical factor of your conscious mind and non-critically accepting suggestions.
And empowering.
To make a fear vanish, you must experience it fully.
As it helps you create your life exactly the way you want it. Bring your family closer. Find the love of your life. Create strategies for wealth. Learn irresistible influence and so much more. Because of the intimate nature of this course, seats are very limited. Register now before your life passes you by and there are no more turning points for you. Tens of thousands of people have learned this information and are using it daily.
You don't get angry if you get fired from your job and you know that within 2 years you will be a multi-millionaire.
It's your time.
There's a way for you to win this game that is different than how you're doing it, and it works.
It's your life.
When you learn how to do that, you become more powerful, and power is for use.
It's your turning point.
Welcome back to The Vault. I'm Marshall Silver on the Marshall Silver Live Show. If you're brand new, it's real simple. All you got to do is call in. 877-SILVER1. 877-SILVER1. Get you on the air, or at least lets us know what your question is. And if your question is interesting enough, well, then by gosh, yeah, we're going to put you on the air, and we're going to have some fun. So before we do that, we gave away a lot of cash yesterday. We gave away 4 callers, plus 2 of those callers had refers. So not only did they make $100 a piece, their refers made money as well. Who's our first caller of the day, Sterling? Felicia, welcome home. Tisha, welcome home. Glad you're here.
Good
What are
morning.
you working on?
Well, I have a business question for you. So
I have a business answer.
I know you do. So tomorrow, Jim and I have an event with our Chamber of Commerce. It's a networking event. There should be between 80 and 100 business owners there. And I need help refining our elevator pitch. So when people come up to our table, how do we tell them what we do that speaks to their pain points, and we give them the solution that they're looking for?
Hi, my name is Marshall Silver. I'm a millionaire maker.
Yes, you are. And you're making us millionaires, and we love you for that.
Good. So what I just got from you was an affirmation. So there's two things in your elevator pitch that you want to think about, two elements that you want to have in place. The first is to excite the imagination. I got to say something that is pertinent to what they're dealing with, so their mind says, gosh, yeah, this is for me. But the second thing it's got to do is it's got to put them in a yes state. It's got to put them in a state where their brain says, yes, this works for me. Yes, I like that. Yes, I want to know more about that. So if I were to say to you, I'm walking past your table, I've got all these other tables at the Chamber of Commerce event, I walk past your table, what do you say to me that gets me to stop and engage you in a conversation?
We help business owners who are frustrated with employee turnover. I don't know what to say, how to say it.
So that's good. It's too long. It's too winded.
Yeah.
We find hidden money in your business.
Okay.
That's what we do. That's what you do.
Right. We find hidden money in their business, and they can reuse that to.
You don't need to go on. You don't need to say any more.
Okay.
We find hidden money in your business without any cost to you.
Hidden money in your business with no cost to you.
Yeah, right off the bat. Now I'm going to say, tell me more. We have shirts, and I know you've seen me wear the shirts at live events that say Certified Millionaire Maker. When I wear that shirt in public, minimum one person, usually a couple of people when I go out, they'll look at the shirt, they'll look back up at me, and they'll say, really? Make me a millionaire. And I say, great, I'd love to. Let me tell you about how we're going to do that. So what you want, number one, are you clear on what you want your outcome to be?
Yes.
What's the outcome?
The outcome is I want them to book a consultation with us so we can give them the details of what we can do for them.
Perfect. So one of the things that happens a lot of times when people are in a sales circumstance is they get distracted about what the outcome is, and they fall into the agenda of the person they're presenting for. So their client, their prospect, starts going on about, oh, my horse died, and my wife and I have been having, a challenge in this. It doesn't matter. You got to keep a focus on your outcome. Salespeople often get off track. When I get on a phone call, one of the things that I do when I meet people right away, when I'm on a stage, you've seen me do this, within the first part of the relationship, I tell them what the offer is. If I'm on a preview, if I'm on my Take Action Now lecture, early on in the lecture, I say, I'm going to offer up something called Turning Point. It retails for $3,000. That's not the investment you'll make. You're going to make a substantially lower investment. Plus, I'm also going to give you some extra bonuses and a better than money back guarantee. But what you do when you tell people what it is that you're there to do, then it automatically reduces their resistance because they don't have to spend time figuring out what is it you want from me. So I might adapt that elevator pitch to say we're booking sessions to help business owners find hidden money inside of their business at no additional cost or energy from the business.
I like that. So
it's sexy, isn't it?
QR code. It's sexy. I'll have a QR code that they can scan that takes them straight to the booking page.
Perfect. But the comment needs to be, we are scheduling complimentary appointments to help people find hidden money in their business without spending any additional marketing dollars or energy. Sounds a bit like magic.
It is magic.
So if you're doing an offer, you want to make it sound magical. If I run an ad for weight loss, I want it to be eat whatever you want, whenever you want, as often as you like, and still lose weight. Then they're going, holy cow, well, how in the world can I do that? That's magical. Even when I gave you the phrase, the elevator pitch, I said, isn't that sexy? You said, oh, yeah, that's sexy. So you want to tell them what to think. You're too busy. The conversation should be, you're too busy running your business to know where all the money is. Really? Tell me why. Well, I can. We're here setting appointments with people to help them find the hidden money in their business that they can tap into with no additional marketing costs, no additional expenses, no additional time or effort on their part. Well, holy cow, tell me more. Now, that said, if you have a premium on top of that, guess what? Now they're going to be even more inclined to make the booking. You know, obviously you and Jim are Inner Circle members. You guys are remarkable. I love you so much. I'm glad you called into the show. But, you know, conversation with people that don't know you. It's not easy to open up the conversation, which is why timeshare, by the way, do you own a timeshare?
I used to.
You used to. What's the reason you don't own a timeshare now?
We owned it for like 20 years, and that was the length of it. So it's long been past that.
So people that own timeshare either hate them or love them. There's no middle ground. Timeshare
We
is a
loved
very
it because
bad.
we used it a lot.
Yes, because you used it, because you understood the point was not a real estate investment. So unfortunately, some people think they're investing in real estate when they buy a timeshare, and that's just silly. It's not true. And in fact, it's more the reason. So your timeshare expired, but you didn't buy another one. What's the reason you didn't buy another one? I'll tell you what the reason is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't going as much. You were going other places. And instead of being locked into that week every single year in that particular place or any of the associated places, you say, no, we want to go wherever we want to go, whenever we want to go, for as long as we want to go. So you don't buy it. So what does timeshare do? Timeshare does exactly what I was talking about at the top of the show. What timeshare did was they reframed what people were buying. Initially, when my friend David Siegel invented timeshare, they were selling it as a real estate investment. You know, you go on vacation, you spend all that money, you got nothing to show for it. If you buy a timeshare, you go on vacation, you spend all that money, and you still own that unit. You still own that week. It's not true. It's not really real. In fact, I remember I was riding with David Siegel because I consulted for him when he was alive. And I said, David, why aren't you in the community development business? And he said, if I sell that one unit, if I develop that unit there and I sell it as a condo, I can sell it for $300,000. If I sell it as a timeshare, I make $3 million for the same exact unit. Because as you know, as a timeshare owner, it's not just the price of the timeshare. Even when you own the unit, you still have to pay your annual fees. You still have to pay all those maintenance and all that other stuff. So what a brilliant way to sell something, continue profit on it when somebody doesn't want to go there, because the breakage in timeshare is about 40 to 50%. Almost half of the people that buy a timeshare end up not liking it and end up just stopping making payments, but they already made some payments, so the unit goes back into inventory and their money is all lost. What you want to do is create your offer in such a way that it's magic. That number one, the initial offer itself has some interest. The elevator pitch that I would use, that you guys should use at the Chamber of Commerce event, is somebody walks by and you say, hello, we are setting appointments to help local businesses find hidden cash inside of their business at no cost or expense to the business. And not only will we help you find the business, almost guaranteed, help you find cash, but we're also going to give you a $6,000 gift for attending the meeting. It's timeshare. And then the $6,000 gift is what?
Turning Point tickets.
2 tickets to Turning Point.
Yep.
So now you've done a bunch of things. You've stopped them. Your elevator pitch is succinct. You've offered an ethical bribe, not just the cash they can find in their business, guaranteed $6,000 worth of a gift as well. And that gift, and this is the thing that I always tell people when they use a premium to book appointments or book sales presentations, the premium that furthers your cause is the better premium. What do I mean by that? If my premium is Cirque du Soleil or Disney tickets, that doesn't necessarily do anything for me unless I got a deal cut with Cirque du Soleil or Disney that they either give me discounted or free tickets, or better still, they give me a bump. They give me a spiff, a commission every time somebody goes to, their location. They go to Disney, they go to Cirque. Cirque du Soleil says, not only will we give you the ticket for free, we know on average the person that comes to our show buys $22 worth of popcorn and, T-shirts, and our margin on that is $15. So we'll give you $7 for every person you send us because we know we're going to profit an additional $7, and we never sell out the show. We never sell out the park. We cannot sell out the park. So when you're thinking about what your premium is, a smart business owner that offers up a premium will offer up a premium that furthers their process, makes them more money. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I love
Thank
you
you,
so
Marshall.
much. Yes, you just earned $100. So thanks for
Awesome.
calling. By the way, because you're an Inner Circle member, I want to tell you, if I was an Inner Circle member, I would be using this show, this program, as my loss leader. I would simply contact people and say, hey, want to tell you about a brand new show called Marshall Silver Live. On the Marshall Silver Live show, all you got to do is call in, you make $100. They'll call in, they'll like me, they'll make $100. Then when you follow up and make the phone call that says, hey, want to invite you to Turning Point, or if they called in and they got their $100 and they got the 2 tickets to Turning Point, they're already coded to you. If you're Inner Circle, the moment your guest calls in, they're already coded to you as far as Inner Circle is concerned. And they make $100, so they like you already. They're going to listen to me. They're going to get to Turning Point, and they're probably going to buy. If I was an Inner Circle member, that's all I would do all day long is I'd tell people to jump on this show. I would post it every single day.
I am. You have been on my
I love
social
it.
media since last week.
Awesome. Well, you are totally loved. I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. I'm excited to catch up on the details on all the marketing that you've been doing. When is the chamber event?
Tomorrow morning.
Kick some butt.
We will. Thank
some
you,
butt.
Marshall. I love you guys.
I love you too. In fact, if I were you, you might set up a computer with the show running live at the event.
Ooh, that's a good idea. It's at 8
I know, I'm
a.m.,
full
but
of
I
them.
could run the recording from today's show.
You could run the recording from today's show. You could tell them giving away $100 cash. All you got to do is call this show because it still is your promotion. We're giving away cash. All you got to do is call into this show. We're also giving away $6,000 prizes for everybody that books a one-on-one meeting to discover how they can generate free cash from their business without spending any more marketing dollars or any more energy at all. So I think it's solid and sound. Kick some butt, and we'll see you next week at Turning Point.
Awesome. Thank you, Marshall.
God bless. I know we changed the lighting a little bit. Am I dark or am I still beautiful, or what do you think? Pardon? Lovely. Fantastic. Jeremy Hessler, San Diego. Welcome home. Glad you're here. Nice haircut. I like it.
I know. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. I had a guy with a shaved head on the street. I said, nice haircut. I was complimenting him. He said, yeah, we have the same barber. What's that?
I said I cut it myself.
Yeah, he said, we have the same barber. I said, that's funny. I didn't see you naked in my shower.
That's a good one.
Good, true. So what do you do for a living?
I do construction. I started doing day trading. Try to do some small businesses here and there. But the problem
So it sounds like you're between opportunities.
Kind of, yes.
How'd you find out about my show?
I've been following you for a while on Facebook, and I saw you posting about it.
Have you been to Turning Point?
I have not.
Well, now you can. You've got 2 tickets plus $100 for calling in. How cool is that?
Oh, super stoked.
Yeah, because you're in San Diego, we've got one coming up next week, actually. You should get to as quickly as you can because we're not going to give away the Turning Point tickets for any longer.
Well, I'll be there next week for sure.
Fantastic. Call 1-800-92-POWER to confirm your seats.
Okay.
1-800-92-POWER. So what's your question today?
So my question is how do I reset my success point? So when I do these businesses or anything, even like health or fitness, I usually get to like a certain point and then I get comfortable and then I self-sabotage myself back down to struggle zone.
Brilliant question. And it's a question 90% of the people watching this show right now have. It's the beginning of the year. I put down all of these things I was going to do different in 26, or, I got on a health food or a, health regime exercise kick. I launched this business and it wasn't working out. So I launched another business. I get it. Here's the key. it's not enough to learn. We've got to become someone new. And that is the challenge. We've got to ask ourselves the question, what would fill in the blank do? What would a millionaire do right now? What would a broadcaster do right now? What would a good husband, a good father, a good human being do right now? And when we ask ourselves that question, the decision of what we should do is always obvious. You know, if I'm sitting at home and I'm playing Candy Crush on my phone and I'm wasting time and not really, spending time with my family or learning anything of use for my life, there's a point where I've got to look down at my phone and say, a millionaire wouldn't do this. Last night I came home and I hadn't seen my family all day. We were here at the studio for most of the day. Hadn't seen my family all day. And I came home and my wife was busy working on something on her laptop. My son was busy playing the guitar on his iPad. My other son was in his studio recording some music. My daughter was, I don't know what she was reviewing on her pad. We were all on devices. And I said, you know what? We need some family time. So I put down my device, which is always the good thing to do, lead by example. And then I engaged my daughter in a conversation. Then I engaged my wife in the conversation. Then I made sure I took time out with my two boys and engaged them. So what we want is in a place we haven't looked. That's first and foremost. If what you're doing isn't working, you've got to do something different. Secondly, we've got to ask ourselves, would a millionaire stay with this long, or would a millionaire realize this was wrong and let it go? It's not about getting on a diet or getting on a workout program. It's about changing who you are. It's about not becoming the guy that has to force himself to get to the gym. It's becoming the guy that leaps out of bed, can't even stand sleeping any longer because it cuts into his gym time. So before I go any further, in an ideal world, because right now you said you didn't really give me an exact idea of what you're doing for a living, which lets me know you're kind of between opportunities. You're reinventing yourself. You're looking for the new thing that works. So my question to you is, if money weren't the object, what do you love?
Oh, good question.
Are you married?
No, not anymore.
Are you single?
Yep.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have one boy.
Lovely. How old's your boy?
14.
There's a certain downturn in your voice. How's the relationship with him?
It's good.
Good. So what was the sadness in your voice I heard when you said 14?
He's growing up too fast.
They always do.
Yeah.
So if money weren't the object, what would you want to do? If you had all the money, if you had $1 billion, what would you be doing with your life right now, Jeremy?
I'm not sure. That's probably part of the problem.
That is the challenge. So when people come to Turning Point, and you're going to be there next week, when people come to Turning Point, I do a thing called cold reading. And basically it's this. People stand up, they ask questions sporadically through the event. And I love the cold reads because the cold reads will always clarify what that person is actually working on. Right now, you don't have a passion. That's why nothing's working out. Maybe you got beat up. Maybe you went through a broken relationship, or maybe you launched a business or 2 or 10 or 50 and they didn't work out. And sooner or later, people get so beat up, they just stop standing up. Does that accurately describe where you may be?
100%.
Good. So when I get to that place, first thing I remind myself is that there is a way for me to win that's different than how I'm doing it, and it works. There's a way to win. You got to keep that in mind. There's a way to find the financial opportunity that works. There's a way to find the relationship that's everything you ever dreamed it would be and then some. There's a way to find a health regime that works for you. I don't like working out anymore. I'm not much on weight training at all. It doesn't inspire me. I love the way I look when I lift weights. Yeah, of course, who doesn't? But I don't like lifting weights. So for me, I don't like working out. I love racquetball. I love seeing my wife in Lululemon shorts bent over picking up the racquetball that I just sailed past her. So it's not even working out, it's foreplay. But the point is that the idea of our life is figuring out how do we arrange our life so it fulfills our desires. If I don't like working out, yet I like playing racquetball, and racquetball is a workout, then I can bypass working out by simply playing racquetball. If I don't like the things that I'm doing to earn a living, the question has to be, okay, if I had all the money in the world, what would I do? And if that's still a non-answer, which it was for you just now, then the answer is that's the challenge. So when I'm faced with that, Jeremy, how do I get myself out of hell? How do I take myself out of that dilemma? I do something like what I do with my students and my customers and my clients. You can write this term down. I offer the buffet. So go ahead and put it into the chat. Offer the buffet. I offer the buffet. What does that mean? Tell me about your skill sets. What are you good at?
I'm good at most everything. And that's
You're
kind of the
pausing,
problem.
though, and your body language and your language patterns tell me otherwise. Are you a jack of all trades and a master of none?
Yes. And that's part of the problem.
Well, it could be the challenge for sure. Yet there is something, or a couple things probably, that you're actually exceptionally good at. Above the other things that you're good at, there's one or two things that you're exceptionally good at. I'm exceptionally good at being non-biased. I'm exceptionally good at empathy and putting myself in somebody else's life and in their head and seeing the world through their eyes to figure out how their life can live. You've got some things that you're exceptional at. Are you a patient person?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay, so that would say no. Are you a good salesperson?
No.
That'd be no. Are you creative?
Sometimes.
That'd be no. Are you persistent?
Usually.
Okay, so we're getting a little bit. It's a little more on persistent. Do you like people or do you prefer time alone?
Both. I like watching people, but I'm
Got
okay
it.
being alone too.
So 100% it's being alone then. Because while you like watching people, that's not actually with people, that's observing people. And I too am fascinated by watching people, so I get it. But we are starting to narrow it down right now. Anything that involves having to interact on a regular basis with people is not something you're fond of, right?
I wouldn't say that, no. Because I interact when I go out, but I still like to observe.
Got it. So if you're forced to observe on a regular basis, or excuse me, if you're forced to interact rather than interacting by choice, is that something that you would like?
Well, I like to interact. I interact by choice. Or I wouldn't
Do you
be
realize that no matter what I say to you right now, you have no answer for?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the challenge. So you're in what I call motion junkiness. You're in a place where turmoil is the most exciting thing that you can live in. And so no matter what comes up for you, it's the motion that you thrive on. It's the drama that you like. People that fall into that trap tend to get into jobs wholeheartedly, massively impassioned, launch businesses. They're going to do this thing. And then the slightest challenge comes up and they start backing away from it. Major challenge comes up, they quit altogether. So what's got to happen is we've got to, first and foremost, help you get to the point, Jeremy, where you'll acknowledge you're 100% responsible. And I don't think that you have a challenge with that. But the other thing that you have to do, there's no way around this, and nobody can do it for you. You've got to start choosing what you want. If I were to take you out to lunch, who would figure out what they wanted for lunch faster, me or you?
Probably you.
Do you usually take a little bit of time to figure out what you want?
It depends on. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
I'd say always. Again, there's not one question I've asked you during our time together that you've had an answer for. 99% are I don't know. And then the other 1% is sometimes this, sometimes that. So that is your challenge. Your indecisiveness is killing you. Except here's the lesson that I want you to get out of this call. And by the way, are you cool with me being as honest as I'm being?
Oh, 100%.
Good. Then here's what I want you to do. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. You can always change your mind later on. But you got to choose now. Not choosing something is choosing the opposite by default. Not choosing to be in a relationship is choosing to be alone. Not choosing to learn a skill set that would benefit you is choosing to stay where you are. So sometimes people think, I'm going to put off choosing till I can be sure. Nobody puts off the choice. The choice to not choose is a choice. So they're choosing. They're just not choosing anything effective. So let me ask it a little bit differently, because I care about you and I want you to win. If I were to wave a magic wand over your head and it was to change something about you or your personality, what thing would that magic wand change?
It would change my drive, I guess.
Got it. Your motivation.
Yes.
You smoke pot?
Nope.
Do you do any kind of drugs or any kind of recreational stimulant?
I was drinking, but I quit
Got it.
drinking last year.
Good. So it sounds to me like you're just not thrilled with your life anymore. You're in the worst possible circumstance a person can be in, and that's a place of complacency and indecision. That's worse. That's worse than bad choices because there's no feedback. There's just nothing. So the idea of sampling the buffet is the first thing I want you to ponder. That we never know what we're going to like until we do it. I'm loving this broadcast, brother. I'm digging the fact that this morning I had no idea that you and I were going to meet, yet I get a chance to not only meet you here on the show, I'm going to get a chance to meet you in person next week at Turning Point. I'm loving the show. My wife asked me last night, how's it going? I said, it's going awesome. She said, you know, I noticed some people are calling in that are referred by somebody else. They're all a part of the same family. Do you think they're just calling in for the money? I said, absolutely. She said, well, how is that a business model? I said, ponder this for a second. I said, some people call in and they have a real question. They've got a business. They've got, you know, something going on in their relationship, their health. They got a real question like you did. And they call in and they ask me that question. Well, that person might have the wherewithal, might have the ability that, you know, when they learn from me or become exposed to me or come to Turning Point, they might love what I teach so much that they'll want to buy other programs from us, and that's what we do for a living. She said, I get it, but what about the broke people? I said, well, the broke people that are calling me just for the money, guess what? They called me just for the money, so the money must matter to them. And if the money matters to them, guess what? They're probably going to tell people they got a free $100 from me. Not only because they got a free $100 from me, because they like their friend, and they're going to tell their friend, you call in tomorrow, get $100 from Marshall. But the beauty is, when their friend calls in, when your friend calls in tomorrow, not only do they get $100, so today you take them to lunch, tomorrow they take you lunch, but you also get $20 because they called in. So what happens is we start sampling the buffet, and we say, oh gosh, this worked, or oh gosh, that didn't. And we start getting closer and closer to the thing that we think we would want to do. I think your biggest challenge right now is, how old are you?
I'll be 51
Mid-30s?
this month.
You're 51?
Well, this month, yeah.
Well, dude, you look great. Good job. So at 51 years old, you're probably experiencing some midlife crisis. Like, what's the point? Who am I? What do I do? What's my life about? Am I right?
No, not on that part.
Well, I guess
As
then
far
you're
as, like,
perfect.
what I'm gonna do, but I know who I am and everything.
So who are you then?
Well, I'm an empath. I guess I'm going on like a spiritual journey right now. So I guess you could say that's a midlife thing.
What else would we call it? You're an empath, which gives you an excuse to be jerked around by anybody else's emotions, but you cloak it, you cloud it by saying, no, I'm an empath. It's a positive thing. I have solid empathy and zero patience for people. I really don't. If somebody wants to be in a particular state, God bless them. I love them, support them in that state. But if they tell me they don't want to be in that state and then they go into that state, I'm going to be a firm mentor and tell them, knock it off. It's not serving you anymore. I don't know how you came about me. I don't know if somebody initially said, hey, check out Marshall Silver, smart guy, probably be able to give you insight. It doesn't matter. I don't care whether you just called in because you wanted $100 and maybe you stumbled upon the show and you saw other people are actually getting paid and you said, hey, I'm not doing anything. He's a fascinating guy. Maybe I'll call and get $100, go have a nice lunch day. It doesn't matter to me. You matter to me, though. And yes, you aren't an empath. I don't think you're on a brand new spiritual journey. I think you're frustrated. I think you're disappointed. I think you're not totally happy with your life right now, and you want to find that happiness. At the end of the day, you're right. Money doesn't cut it. Money never makes anybody happy. It stimulates them. It changes their position, satisfies needs, but it doesn't make anybody happy. What makes us happy is what you're talking about, and that's finding our identity, our purpose. Who am I? What am I here to do? What's my legacy going to be? And particularly when we hit those aughts, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, when we hit those zeros really make us stop and say, what does my life mean? Have I done anything that really matters other than move around, this flesh and bones that I call my body? That's where you are. And I think from my observation, Jeremy, part of you is afraid to claim what you want. I think and I think that on a subconscious basis, at least, you could clearly answer my question. But I think the reason you don't is there's a part of you that believes you're never going to get it. And if I voice it out loud, then I'm making a commitment to it. And if I make the commitment to it and I don't get whatever it is that I want, then I'm only going to feel like more of a failure. And I don't think that's what you want to do. If you could have anything you wanted, let's just go down the checklist. Would you be married?
No.
Okay, so we know that you don't want to be married. If I said, hey, Jeremy, I'll give you $1 billion, would you take it?
Yeah.
Oh, hell, I'm motivated by that response. But I said I was going to give you $1 billion, and I said, would you take it? You went, yeah, I'd take it. I had a caller on yesterday, and I don't know if you were watching yesterday. She was clearly calling just for the money. And her question was kind of irrelevant. And I said, admit it, you're just calling me for the money. Oh, no. I said, okay, then I won't give it to you. She went, oh, no, I want the money. I said, that's the challenge. Your brain is wired to not admit you want the money. And because you're not admitting you want the money, every endeavor you go into, you don't make the money. Because on a subconscious basis, you only kind of want the money. I want the money. Just to be clear, I want to GTFM every day. Get the freaking money every day. Why? Not because I need it. I don't need another car. I've got cars that haven't been driven in months. I don't need any more houses. I've got 2 houses and only one of them gets lived in at a time. I have everything that I want and then some. Money doesn't motivate me. You motivate me. Me helping you make a breakthrough at 50 years old, 51 years old is going to bless your son. It's going to bless you. It's going to bless everybody you interact with. It's going to create velocity in your world, then in my world, then in the world. Everybody wins when I help one other person win. I want to help you win, Jeremy. Except to do that, I've got to do the last thing that's going to happen when you come to Turning Point. I'm going to teach you how to reprogram your brain. I'm going to show you how to use psychoneuroduplication. And then I'm also going to teach you skills of irresistible influence, how you can sell anyone anything at any time. All of us, you, me, everybody has to learn the skills of influence because they are the skills of persuasion. But here's the third thing that Turning Point's going to do for you in a big way. You're not particularly motivated right now because you don't need to be.
That's true.
What are you doing to earn a living right now? How are you generating money to buy food and pay rent?
Right now I work when I need to. And then
So you must have some stash of cash?
A little bit. And then I also, I'm learning to day trade. So
you mentioned that, but you can't day trade without money. Well, you can actually. My friend Troy allows you to trade his money, but you need cash to day trade. So you did something somewhere. Did you retire from something? Are you disabled? Did you get a settlement?
No, I do construction. And then I've sold some properties.
Okay, so in the course of your life, you did some things fiscally good that allowed you to make some money. You sold some property. You're living off some of those profits. The challenge is you got a cushion. Am I right?
Yeah, but that's the problem. That's why I was calling in, is because once I get that cushion, then I go back to the chaos.
Yeah, right. You burn through the money. Then you start getting desperate. Then you start getting busy. So I'm going to give you your mantra of the day. It's one word, tasking. Tasking. Human beings are motion junkies. We need motion to feel alive. When we cannot have motion externally, then what we do is we create motion internally. That's called emotion. And much like the old Disneyland ticket book, the e-ticket rides are always the most dramatic rides. They're always worse than the other ones. So what happens is human beings go inside of themselves, create turmoil inside of themselves so that they can have the experience of solving the turmoil and getting back to victory. And I'm guessing that's something you've been pretty good at.
Oh,
I'm guessing because you're clearly a hard worker. You're clearly somebody that's willing to get out and do the thing that you need to do. You called into this show. You didn't have to. You could have sat there and doom scrolled on, whatever you were looking at online. But you said, I'm going to call in. I'm going to have a conversation with Marshall. Yeah, I'd like to go check out Turning Point next week. I'm going to see if maybe that won't light the fire underneath me again. So what tasking is imagine you have a life. And in your life, there is what we call an average experience. Not bad, not good, just right in the middle. there are what we call dips, or what I call personal points of readiness for change. When things get as bad as we're willing to let them get. Maybe our bank account's at zero. Some people, their bank account has to get to negative something before they actually hit their point of readiness for change. But everybody has a point of readiness for change. Maybe with my body, my point of readiness for change is I'm not going to put on elastic pants. I don't mind getting fat, but by the time I got to put on something with elastic in it, man, I'm taking charge of my life. Maybe I'm only getting laid once a month and my wife and I aren't getting along, and I'm going, doesn't cut it. I need to figure out a way to get laid every week. And so I reach that point of readiness for change, and I change my habits. I change what I do. Therefore, I change the outcome and what I experience. What people don't know is in this thing called life, from the present moment till your death, this thing is average. This thing is as bad as it's going to get before I change and make it better. What people don't realize, there's also an upper point that's equally as toxic as that point of readiness for change. And that's the point that says this is better than I think I deserve or I think I can have. And so what happens is somebody is wanting to make money. They're broke. They're wanting to make money. They don't have any money, so it gets really, really bad. They have to go a day or two without eating. They're about to get kicked out of their house. They decide to buckle down, make some money. And so, boom, they get some money. They eat. They pay their rent. They're doing okay. But then things go really, really well. And then they say, gosh, I got all this money. Maybe I'll treat myself, and I'll go on a trip to Vegas, and I'll go play blackjack. And they go to Vegas, and they lose all their money. Bam, they crash their life again. And so their entire existence is this motion junkiness ride of point of readiness for change, better than I think I deserve, crash my life back and forth. Here's what successful people do. Here's why tasking is your mantra. Successful people take that graph that goes up and down like this, and they turn the whole graph on its edge. And instead of this point of readiness for change being here, and then this point where I throw the wrench in it here, what they do is, because the graph is on angle, the graph goes like this. It doesn't have to get as bad as it had to get before for you to say, I need to change. You don't, feel like you're doing better than you should be doing. When it gets up here, you say, no, I can do a little bit better. And the reason you do a little bit better is you're tasking by aiming for something up here. Maybe it's $1 million a year. Maybe it's a relationship where you don't fight, 99% of the time. Maybe it's, I want to get down to 200 pounds, body weight and 12% body fat, whatever it is. But when you task yourself, what happens is, on a subconscious basis, in the back of your mind, there's always this idea, that's what I'm aiming for. Therefore, I don't have time to doom scroll. Therefore, I don't have time for toxic relationships. Therefore, I don't have time for financial opportunities that couldn't make me strong 6, even 7 figures. You just start eliminating all those things that are below your pay grade or beneath your life's experience because you're aiming for this thing over here. Tasking. The third thing that's going to happen when you come to Turning Point next week, I'm going to teach you how to reprogram your brain. I'm going to teach you how to communicate with other people in a better way. So whether it's more money, more sex, more fun, whatever it is you want that you're going to get from other people, you'll communicate better to get it from them. Third thing I'm going to do, though, and this is the thing I warn people about, I'm going to turn up your wantingness. I'm going to make you completely dissatisfied with the life that you're living right now, not in a bad way, in a completely motivational way, where you'll say, I'm not starving. My life isn't bad. I'm not being threatened, but I want a whole lot more. I'm doing this broadcast right now, Jeremy, for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's my legacy. I've already made $800 million. My life is blessed. I never have to work again. Thank you, God. I'm here doing this show because I know there are people like you that are this close. You're right on the edge, man. You're about to make a breakthrough. And you need a nudge. You need a firm mentor. You need somebody that you can respect, somebody that you cannot trample all over, somebody that when you're being lazy and when you're being indifferent and when you're not making up your mind, they say, knock it off. And I think that's what you want, and I think that's what's going to be best for you. But there's another part to this legacy. And the other part of this legacy is that when I die, I want people to be able to say, I tuned into his broadcast, I talked to him for 5 minutes. It changed the whole trajectory of my life. That's what I want, and that's what I'm going to create for you. You are loved, brother. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
God bless. I'll see you on Tuesday at Studio Money for Turning Point.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Take care. You're very welcome. I love people. I really do. If you're not doing what you love right now, then that's the first thing you got to solve. Bottom line, the majority of your life is going to be spent in your vocation. Unless you're a trust fund baby, unless your parents had a boatload of money and you inherited your finances, you're probably going to spend the majority of your life making money. So it should be something that you love, not something that you can tolerate, not something that you put up with, something that you absolutely adore. I want it to be something you adore. Speaking of things I adore, there's a person I adore online. Cynthia Trammell from Fort Worth, Texas. Welcome home.
Hi, Marshall.
Your image, your video looks like a headshot for a supermodel.
Whatever.
You got to pan that down.
You're sweet. You're sweet.
So,
hey, I'm just going to say this. Jeremy, he is going to love next week. This is going to change his life. I know what I'm talking about here.
You do. You've been the turning point, and you're here now. Talk to me. What are you working on?
Oh, I'm working on the coaching program. I did a webinar this morning and, things just catching some momentum. We're going to work next week, coming out there to see you next week, and lots of things going on. Lots of great momentum, and it's going to be a great year. I'm excited about working on my.
What's your question?
I loved yesterday, Deb. She was great. And my question was about these webinars and how AI might change the structure of webinars. And I kind of have a love-hate with the webinar, how effective it is. And I went to a class. It was like a 3-day class by a guy who specializes in webinars. And there was a lot of chat. Russell Brunson, I believe his name was.
Yep.
And a lot of chatter about he was doing pre-recorded parts of it. And people were just a lot of negative talk about it, that everything should be live. But he did pre-recorded things. And I thought, how is AI going to change that? And were the comments negative because people are seeking relationships? And will AI kind of rob that from the webinar? I don't know. I'm just kind of processing through with webinars how valuable they are, and how does AI change them, or will it?
A lot of unpack there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, let me unpack. So first and foremost, there is a platform that I use called EverWebinar, and it's by a company called Webinar Gem. Mike Filsame. Mike Filsame's one of the OGs of internet marketing. And EverWebinar allows you to pre-record a webinar and then play it back as if it were live. The software is so great that if I put up an ad or a post on social media and you click the link and you go to my landing page, which, by the way, you can do this right now. Anybody watching the show can do this right now if you want to understand what I'm talking about. When you go to mp2m.com/webinar, you'll get to my EverWebinar. It'll tell you that there's a webinar starting within 15 minutes, so every quarter hour. So no matter when you go, one is starting within 15 minutes because it's evergreen. But here's the part that makes it better. When you go there and you watch the webinar, there is chat in the chat stream of the webinar. That chat in the chat stream is playing in real time alongside the webinar. So if I make a comment, the chat will reference the comment that I made during the webinar. If you're watching the Evergreen webinar and you type something into the chat, it will show up in the chat for you, but it won't show up in the chat for everybody else. You'll think watching the webinar that it's showing up for you. It must be showing up for everybody else, but it's not. And the reason it's not showing up for everybody else is built into the software is your ability to review those comments. So if somebody is posting nonsense or being abusive or posting their promotional links in your chat on your webinar, they won't show up for everybody else until you approve them, so you don't have to deal with that crap. But when they make good comments, you can go back and approve them, and the comments that they made will show up in the timeline of the webinar in real time as to where they made them so they make sense. That make sense to you?
Yes. That's wonderful.
So that creates a live experience in a pre-recorded environment. I want to address the other thing you were talking about, though, and that is somebody complaining that this was pre-recorded. I understand that somebody would complain that it was pre-recorded, but it's novices that complain, not real people. Because a real person would look at a piece of content online and say, what difference does it make whether it's pre-recorded or live? There's no difference on my experience unless I want to interact with that person. Unless, just like we're doing right now on this show, unless I want to ask questions, get feedback. That's the only time that live matters, is when you're doing what we're doing right now. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Purists will say, oh, yeah, but, I just want to give it live every day. I understand how you might want to do that, and I understand how you might even feel compelled or obligated or guilty when you don't. But here's my question. There are some webinars that you do that are better than other ones that you do. Some of the times you presented this material, you were spot on, you flowed, you were in the zone. And there's other times, same exact material, all the same slides, and you weren't in the zone. So if that's the case, I guess the one that was really good, you were probably serving your customer better because the presentation was better. So if I serve my customer better with this presentation, and I don't want to show this presentation because it's pre-recorded, then really what I'm saying is I don't give a damn about my customer. I'll just give them whatever happens to come up in real time, and I'm going to do it because it's live, not because it's better, because it's live. And that's stupid. So the answer is yes, AI is changing everything. Yes, there will be a time very soon, it's already here, where we're not going to be able to tell what's live and what's Memorex. We're not going to know when something's actually AI. In the past, recent times, there's been lots of telltales. We were talking about this. I took Deb and my son Sterling to lunch, and we were talking about, how AI sometimes gets the fingers wrong or, won't do this or won't do that. It's getting corrected. It's as good as can be now. And, there's lots of people, including Anik, including Deb, including us, because we're going to also help people create those avatars, that 100% your webinar should be pre-recorded. There's zero reason, unless it's a brand new webinar and you're testing things out and you're trying to tweak and figure out what works, there's zero reason that anybody should do a live webinar. If you talk to Mike Filsaime, and I'm guessing Russell Brunson probably feels the same, that you're not a professional if every single one of your presentations is live. It's Madonna or some famous singer getting on stage with a highly choreographed, high-energy show that uses some pre-recorded tracks. Why is she using pre-recorded tracks? Because she's doing so much dancing, she couldn't possibly sing and then do the dance. So then the question is, well, does my audience want to see the dance or do they want to hear me sing live? I just want an experience. If I don't know that there was a track you were singing to, I don't give a damn. So I don't think the challenge is that it was pre-recorded. I think the challenge is that they figured out that it was pre-recorded. And I don't even think that that's an offense. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the challenge is that it wasn't presented well enough that that was even on their minds. I think the content needs to be so good that nobody is going, oh, this is pre-recorded, therefore it's not pertinent. I'm not going to learn anything from you. You're pre-recorded. You're cheating me. Who cares? If it's the best possible presentation you can do, and you're sitting there by the chat so that while your pre-recorded webinar is playing, but all you're doing is sitting there in the chat answering questions in real time, that's as good as it gets. You couldn't do better by your customer. But you got to get out of the ego yourself of thinking I'm lying to them or I'm deceiving them. Hell, if you feel bad about it, put a banner at the bottom and says, hey, this was pre-recorded, being hosted in real time. They'll answer any question you have, and I'll answer it right now. It's the experience. I'm excited. When you come in on Monday and we're working on your presentations, we're going to talk some more about this because there are parts of presentations that I do in the scope of my presentations that people don't even know are pre-recorded. And the reason they're pre-recorded is not only there's no real point in me doing the work again, I already did it, but the other reason is I already did it as well as I can do it. I can't do it any better. And if I attempt to do it again in real time, it's not going to be as good as the one that was pre-recorded previously. Just not going to be.
That's great.
So I guess the only question is, do I love my customers or not? Do I love them enough to give them the very best of what I can give them, even at the risk of them judging me or saying mean things about me? Yeah, I could care less what people say about me. I like me.
I like you too, Marshall.
Yes,
no, that's
you are
great.
loved. Yes, you are loved.
I love that. Thank you for that perspective. That really does help me because I've been putting a lot of time and energy into doing webinars every week live. And I feel like, is the value that I'm getting out of them worth all the effort putting into them?
Definitely not.
And so,
definitely not.
I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah, unless it's a unique offer, unless it's the first time you're making the offer, it should be pre-recorded. So not only should it be pre-recorded, but the reason that you do it live at all is to work through the bugs. That's why we're doing this right now the way that we're doing it. And it's subtle things like if you're looking at the screen right now, there's a little banner that says live. Yesterday, it was underneath your image. I told Sterling we got to move that down a little bit so that it's not hiding underneath the other person's image. I want to put a different background up so we have a background of the actual vault that I'm sitting in. I want stuff to pop up on the screen over my shoulder, whether it's an interview or I reference a book or I reference some topic so that it's just more entertaining and more engaging. But it's rehearse, review, revise, exactly what I teach you all the time. Let's go do it. Let's get our feedback. Let's go, change things up. Let's go do it again. You're not going to get a better response just because it's live. There's not one person that's making a buying decision on your product because the event was live versus pre-recorded. You're not losing one sale. You are yourself losing motivation to do those webinars, which is going to lose you money. You are yourself going to telegraph that exhaustion of, my God, I'm doing this webinar. There's 5 people on the webinar. Maybe I made 1 sale. Maybe I made no sales. And it's not worth it. Right now, where are my glasses? Right now, we're doing the broadcast, and I can't see all the streams, but it looks like we got about 70 people on the streams, which is good by me. I'm cool with that. It's not the 10,000 that I want. It's not the 100,000 or million that I'm looking for eventually. It's good enough for me right now, though, that there's roughly 70 people on the stream that are listening right now. Maybe some of them want $100 for calling in like you did. Maybe they just want content. Maybe they want to be reassured everything's going to be okay, right? So in the beginning, when we're building things, we're going to back up. We're going to do a lot of stuff we don't want to do. We're going to have to grind through it and get it done. But eventually, I'll show up 5 minutes before I go on the air. My research person will have all the data. I will have told them previous week in the production meeting, here's all the topics. They bring, content for all the topics that I want to talk about. Do you want to use this graphic? Want to use this story? Want to play this video? And then we can do a more entertaining show. In the meantime, though, just me, naked, like this. False. Right now, as I'm talking to you, for some reason, we're getting feedback in the studio. When they open up your mic, I get a feedback where I can hear mine echoing behind me on a delay. It's got nothing to do with you, just something in the system. But my point is, put out crap, then put out crap 2.0. Right? Right?
Perfect. Thank you.
And stop worrying about what people think. Yeah, those folks that were judging Russell Brunson because he was using certain portions of his program were pre-recorded, they're amateurs. Professionals don't care. If I go and have a nice meal and I have a steak that I really, really enjoy, do I really care that they started cooking it 2 days prior? No, of course not. It proves they love me. They care about me. They want me to have a really good steak. So they put the time prior to when I sat in their restaurant in so that by the time I got into their restaurant, it could go as flawlessly as possible. That's what you're doing. So if you need to justify it to yourself, justify it by realizing you're doing it this way, you're pre-recording it because you care about your customers. I love you. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited to do events with you. Your topic, tell everybody watching right now what you teach people.
I teach people, investors, how to buy small multifamily, 50 units and under with no syndications, and you don't even have to use any of your own money. You can leverage other people's money. Smaller deals have bigger profits. So I teach people how to do that, how to buy them.
Yeah, I can't wait to. Actually, you know what? I'm going to have you on the show. I don't know what you're doing in 2 weeks, but we'll talk about it when you come in next week. But I want you on this show, and I want to talk about multifamily investing on small-sized properties with no money, none of your own. I want to talk about all that with you. So we'll get you on the screen in 2 weeks, next week after Turning Point. Heck, you know what would be even better? What about, when are you coming in on Monday?
I'm coming in Sunday.
Good. How about we put you on the air on Monday morning, and then in the afternoon we stay devoted to your cause.
Love it. I'm in. Let's do it.
On the books. Hey, you just got $100, Cynthia. Keep telling people about the show, and I'll see you next week at Turning Point.
Thanks, Marshall. Love you.
God bless.
Bye.
I love you too.
See you next week.
I have the best customers. I really do. And my God, I can't believe time has flown. Holy cow. How many people did we get on the air today? 3. They're just so damn good looking. We should get ugly people on because I'll get ugly people off the air fast. The good looking people I just want to talk to. I'm Marshall Silver. You are totally loved. I've had an absolute blast. Before I wrap up, in the last minute, I want to remind you we're experimenting with this concept. And the concept's real simple. I'd like to be here every single day, just like I was for the callers that called in and for the people watching that didn't call in. I'd like to be able to be here 5 days a week for you, to teach you content, to inspire you, to give you options. I also would like to bribe you. Every single person that calls in gets $100 in their Zelle account by the end of the day. Every single person that refers somebody else, as long as they're registered and you send out your affiliate link, if they're on your affiliate link signed into our system, you're going to get $20. They're going to get $100 every single time. Tell your friends, if you're inner circle like Cynthia is, like Tish, the first caller was and is, if you're inner circle, then, when they come to Turning Point, guess what? They're going to be coded to you. And when they invest in other training programs, which they almost always do, you're also going to get a big, huge paycheck on the backside. I'm Marshall Silver. We're back tomorrow from 10 till whenever, but we start right at 10 a.m. sharp. And then I won't be up at all the following week. No, that's not true. I'm going to do Monday. We'll do one day on Monday. Then I'm booked the rest of the week with my live events. And the rest of the week, we won't have programs. Then we'll be back the following week. So you are loved. Tell your friends all about the show. Post some clips right now. Get them registered today so that when we come back on the air tomorrow, they can call me, make some money, and give you credit for it while you're making money too. Remember, we're in this thing together called life. Take good care of each other. Together we got this, and celebrate life. See you tomorrow.